Congratulations, you've got yourself an audition. Excellent. But in this strange new world, that means you have to be ready for one of two things. You have to send a self-tape, or you have to get ready for a Zoom audition. And in this video, we're going to go over how to effectively do both. Now, before we start, the first thing that I want to talk about is following directions. Of course, following directions has always been important as an actor, but now it is imperative because we're not going into the room. We're handling our auditions here at home, which means that we have to do exactly what the casting director tells us to do in our submission breakdown. So, for example, if they tell you to film in a medium shot, film in a medium shot. If they tell you they need the action of a commercial to be A, B, C, and D, make sure you hit A, B, C, and D. And while, yes, they can send notes and ask you to do it again, that process is no longer immediate. It takes a lot longer to email you notes and wait for you to retape and send it back than just to give you notes in the room. Our job is to give them exactly what they ask for. Do the best we can to send a tape that they can just send along to their producers and directors. So let's get to work. Let's examine what we need to do for a successful self-tape audition and a successful Zoom audition. If you're not self-taping and you want to jump over right to the Zoom information, then go to this number in the video, whatever number that is. Go there. Although I recommend just watch the whole thing. I'm giving you a lot of good stuff. One more little note before we get going. Don't apologize for your setups. Don't do it. We're all in the same boat. There has never been a time like this before. Every casting director, every director, every producer, they get it. We're working with what we got, and that's okay. Your setup might not be what my setup is. Don't worry about it. Just do the best you can, and think about the small steps you can take to make it easier to effectively audition from home. Self-taping, da-da-da-da. To film your self-tape, you have the option of one of 4 different types of camera. Any one of these will do. You can use a good old-fashioned point-and-shoot camera. You can use a phone. You can use a tablet, or you can use your computer. Chances are you've got at least one of these. I mean, you're watching this video, so you've got to at least have some kind of phone or computer or tablet. I don't think you could be watching this on your camera. Although, I don't know, maybe you've got a cool camera. Rule number 1 of self-taping. Film horizontally. Do not film vertically. If you film vertically, like holding your phone, then you're going to end up with these black bars on either side of you and your image looks really small. So always film in the horizontal. When I shoot my self-tapes, I shoot really wide because then in post, you can zoom into the perfect frame. This also really helps with lighting because if you try to light for here, it can be really hard and you end up getting really overexposed or you got so many shadows. But if you can light the whole space in the wide form, then when you cut in, you look pretty good. Once you've decided what piece of equipment you're going to use to film, the next thing you need to do is prop it up in front of you, which will mean either getting a tripod or MacGyvering something to make it work. I have 3 tripods. I have my ring light, which holds up my phone. I've got this little squishy thing that I'll talk a little bit more about later. And then I've got this more traditional tripod that has both a camera mount on top and an iPad mount on the front. So for me, 99% of the time, I shoot with my iPhone on my ring light. For some commercial auditions, I've had to shoot pretty wide, which can be harder on a phone or tablet, so that is when I bring out the good old-fashioned camcorder. It just allows a little bit more space. I love using my tablet for Zoom auditions and Zoom readers. Now, I'm going to go over my whole Zoom connection and setup a little bit later in the Zoom portion of this tutorial video, but for now, as you can see, it provides a good clear picture for you to look at and a possible eyeline. Eyelines are super important to keep in mind when taping at home, so let's put up some post-its and I'll show you why. Check out my happy faces. A lot of people use a piece of tape to set an eyeline. I prefer a post-it with a happy face on it because I would rather connect with a post-it with a happy face on it. Now check out my placement. So since my camera is right here, I've got a pink and I've got a green that are closest to that lens. I also have this yellow one and I've got this blue one over where my Zoom reader would be. So this is me talking to the green Post-it note and the pink Post-it note. So these are my two favorite eyelines. They're the ones that are closest to camera, so if I have one scene partner, I pick one of those, whichever my better side is. If I have two scene partners, I pick my favorite eyeline for my favorite scene partner and my secondary eyeline for my secondary scene partner. If there's a third person or a thing that happens in my scene, that's when I get into yellow or blue, which are further away from the camera. Remember when you're setting your eyelines that we want to see your eyes, both of them. It doesn't help if you're talking to someone over here, or you're looking at something down here or up here. Everything happens right here. But don't go right down the barrel either, because that's weird. Don't stare at us. It freaks us out. I mean, it's okay because I'm just talking to you and I can talk to you. But if I was in a scene right now, you'd feel uncomfortable. It's this weird thing that happens. We feel uncomfortable. It's like you're talking to us. We're like, how are you talking to us? So just go over here. I'm going to go over how to effectively cut and edit your footage at this number. But just for now, know that the ideal frame is somewhere around here. Up next, backdrops. So you can just use a plain wall. If you don't have a plain wall that you can shoot on, then you can hang a sheet. If you don't have a sheet, then you can use anything at all. A towel, a curtain, a tablecloth. Though I'm guessing if you don't have a sheet, you probably don't have a tablecloth, but you catch my drift. Something flat and non-glossy, so it doesn't reflect the light that you're using to light your beautiful face. And ideally not white. White is too bright, so don't use white. I like gray. I know everyone uses blue. I don't really like blue, but that's just my personal opinion. The tip about sheets is it's really distracting when they're wrinkly. It's just this funny thing that happens where like you see a tape with a wrinkly sheet and you think, that's funny, that's a wrinkly sheet. They didn't iron their sheet. Which just, take that thought out of people's heads. Just iron your sheet. And don't use white. I said that already, right? Don't use white. Don't use white. Up next, lighting. Every tape we send has to have a clear picture of our face. However, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on lighting equipment. You can use natural light. I love natural light. If you got some natural light, set yourself up in front of that window and tape there. If natural light is not your friend and you need a little extra, just use what you've got in your house. Some table lamps, some floor lamps, some desk lamps. Bring them all in, put them up on chairs and boxes, and light yourself as best as you can. Try to get a clear, neutral light, nothing too cold or too warm. Although we can play with that in post a little bit too, which I'll go over here. If you would like to invest in a full lighting setup, this is what I've got. Since I have absolutely no natural light in this room, I use a fair amount of lighting equipment to get this room to work for me. The number one thing that I would recommend if you're looking to buy just one piece of light, the ring light. Yes, it's super popular, and yes, there's a reason for that. These bad boys are great. They give you a nice even light all the way around, and it makes your eyes pop too. The only thing that I would keep in mind is not having it turned up too high because you can easily get overexposed. For example, like this. This is too much. I also use two soft boxes. These help with mitigating any distracting shadows. Soft boxes are great because they fill the whole space with light and they give you two light sources. I like to keep mine quite high in the room so that the light comes directly down on an angle that makes my chin line look really nice. And I got all three of my lights, my ring light and my two soft boxes, for about $250. A couple of extra things that I have added, because I'm just like that, is I've put a scarf over top of my overhead light. It just gives me like a nice, soft, more warm light. Yeah, that's actually an Hermes scarf. It's a long story, but fashion people, please don't kill me. I've also added these string lights at the back to act as a hair light because I'm a redhead, and without these, my hair looks brown. See? Doesn't my hair look kind of brown? I specifically ordered incandescent lights, which have a nice warm light, to keep me looking gingery. That's better. All right, so we've got your camera set up. We've got a nice clean backdrop. You are well lit, and now the last thing you have to think about is audio. You definitely don't need to buy an external microphone. Whatever mic is built into your device will work fine. However, there are a couple things that you should keep in mind. Number 1, background noise. Try to minimize it as much as possible. If there's a loud refrigerator, maybe turn it off for an hour. If there's a fan, maybe turn that off too. Having a nice, clean audio track will make a really big difference. Second thing to keep in mind is your reader placement. If you are taping something that requires a reader, whether in person or on Zoom, make sure that your reader is not placed directly next to the built-in mic on your device, because otherwise they're going to be super loud and you're going to be super quiet, and that's really distracting. All you have to do to fix this, move them back. That's all. Just move them back. The other thing for you to note as the performer is to not be too quiet, because if you talk like this, or being too loud, because no one wants to listen to that. If you want to invest in an external microphone, do it. Invest in an external microphone because they do help a lot. There are 2 popular types to consider: a shotgun mic, like mine, or a set of lav mics. My shotgun mic looks like this. It plugs into my iPhone or my iPad. It was about $200 and it works really great. So let's plug it back in. Now, I haven't personally used lav mics, but I have heard from my friends who do use lav mics that you need 2. One for you and one for your reader. They connect to 2 different channels, so then in post, you can turn your voice up or you can turn their voice down to make sure that it sounds like you are closest to camera. You can get lav mics pretty inexpensively, just don't let it get too inexpensive. Because if it's like $10, there's probably a reason it's $10. So do some research, read some reviews, and get something that you're confident will work. Better yet, if you do use lav mics that you know and love, maybe you could put a comment below, and then we could all learn together and grow as a community. That would be nice. Okay, remember how I told you to always shoot your self-tape horizontally? Do that, for sure. But if you need to shoot a full body slate, then you can switch to vertical. But just for the slate, just the slate, then go back to horizontal. Here's how I do it. We've got a adjustable tripod thing here. I've got it locked onto my ring light, and then when you pull back, this is my whole body. Once you've got your self-tape shot, then you got to get it onto your computer. If you've used your camcorder, then you're probably going to have an SD card that looks like this or is a little bit smaller, and you'll either plug that into your computer or plug it into an adapter that then goes into your computer. So think about that. If you're using a camcorder, make sure you can get the files from here to your computer. It's not as easy as it once was because the newer versions of Mac don't have this type of reader built in. You have to buy it separately. Keep that in mind. Like I mentioned, I prefer to just film on my iPhone or my iPad so I can just airdrop my files to my computer for editing. Since I have a Mac, I use iMovie to edit my self-tapes. If you don't have a Mac and you've got something else, iMovie is just like the most basic free software that comes with my computer. So whatever basic free software comes with your computer will work totally fine. And here's what it looks like when I'm inside that program. Welcome to iMovie. Don't worry, it's not that hard. First thing you're gonna do is import your media. So you're gonna click right here. I airdropped my files from my phone to my computer under my desktop, so I can just select them here and click Import Selected. If you used a camcorder and you have an SD card, then you will plug it into your SD card reader and you'll plug this into your computer and you will import it from there. Then you drag your files down to the bar below for editing. I like to put my scene first and my slate at the end, but you know, that's just me. To edit the length of your clip, you can click here or here to get exactly what you need. The next thing I do is double click on my video file and play with these guys up here. The one that I love the most is this cropping tool. This is how you get the perfect frame. You just click crop to fill and then check this out. Enter. The perfect frame. I do the same thing for my full body slate. So look, click, crop to fill, and then cut it down a bit so that you don't see my crazy lights and you can see my whole body. Nice, right? If If they ask you to do a slate that starts close and ends wide and you're by yourself, then I have a little trick for that too. What you can do is split your clip. So let's say after I say my name,
hi there, my name is Laura Mack.
I cut it, I right click, split clip, and now what I can do is go into this first one and set the frame as like a close-up, like so. Well, how does that one look? Pretty good. Maybe a little tighter. Ta-da. Then when you watch it together,
hi there, my name is Laura Mack.
Close.
And here is all the
Full
relevant
body.
information.
Other things you can do is click on sound and play with the volume, and click here to play with the color. So maybe you want to increase the exposure, decrease the exposure, make it more saturated, less saturated, or this last one, which is my favorite one to use because sometimes our lighting just doesn't do exactly what we want it to do, and sometimes we need to make it a little bit warmer or maybe a little bit cooler. Once my clips are edited the way I like them, then I add titles by going over here. I just use the first one. You can play around with it if you want. I put a black title card at the beginning and a black title card at the end. I fill them out by putting my character name in quotations, and then a dash, and then a show title. And then underneath, I put my name. And then over here, I just delete that because that's fine. So it looks like this. The end cards, I do the similar type of thing, except this time I start with my name, and then I put my agency, and then down here I put my agent's name and my agent's email address. Last thing I do is add some transitions to make it look really smooth. So I click up here, and I like to use fade to black between my title cards and my footage. Put one here and put one here. And then I like to use cross dissolve to go between my scenes or between scenes and slates so that it looks like this at the end. Oh, right, Laura Mack for this show.
This is the scene that I am auditioning with perfect eye lines and a perfect frame.
It is a good frame.
Hi there, my name is Laura Mack.
Hi.
And here is all the relevant information that you have asked for in this slate.
Thank you. Oh, nice. Now, there's a lot more that you can do in iMovie, but that's all I use. If you want to learn more, then maybe find a tutorial from someone who knows more than I do, because I'm not a computer person, guys. I'm just an actor. Once you've got things the way you want them, you go up to Projects and you save your file. Now, different casting directors are going to have different opinions on how they want you to label your file, but from what I understand, you do this. Character name, underscore, show title, underscore your name, first and last. And then you save it. Final step, you're going to click on these little three dots, click share your project and share as a file. And then this place is really cool because you can play with how big your file is. If your scene is anywhere between 1 and 3 pages, your final file should be no bigger than 150 megabytes. Now, this file is only 20 seconds, so, no worries. If it is over that, you can play with the resolution and the quality to make it as small as you can. You don't have to send a tape that's 1080p resolution. That makes the file way too big. Everyone's gonna be watching these tapes on either their computer or their smartphone, so 540 is fine. If you can get even less than that, that's fine too. Final note, save your file as an MP4. iMovie does it automatically, so I don't have to worry about it, but if you're editing on something else, just make sure when you save, MP4. Now, when it comes to sending your self-tapes, different casting directors are going to have different preferences on what they want you to use to get that tape to them. The casting directors that I have spoken to are really into platforms like WeTransfer, where you upload your file, it gets sent directly to them, and they can download it. It's easy, it works, and it's free, so don't worry about it. The things that pop up with private YouTube links, Google Drive, Vimeo, is permission. Each of those platforms you have to go through and manually set who gets access to what tape, who can download it, who can't, and there's nothing worse for a casting director than when they get to your tape and they click the link and they can't see it or they can't download it and then they have to go chasing after you for it. So if you are going to use a platform like that, make sure you know that as soon as they click that link, they can see it and they can download it. All right, now that you're super ready for your self-tapes, let's get super ready for your Zoom auditions. Zoom auditions have a lot of different variables to take into consideration, and don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of them. The number one thing to think about with your Zoom auditions, just like with your self-tapes, is to remember to film horizontally. If you have your device locked on vertical and you try to go on Zoom, you're going to end up going the wrong way. Or you'll have big black bars next to you. So make sure your phone or your tablet is unlocked so that you can be horizontally framed. Another really big thing to consider when preparing for Zoom auditions is your internet connection. What is internet anyway? It may sound like a silly question, but I want to outline all of your options. You buy your internet from an internet service provider, your ISP, and they send you a box with 2 options to connect to the internet, Wi-Fi and Ethernet. These are 2 different options. I personally prefer to use Ethernet. That's right. I have a cable that connects to the box and runs through my house so that I can connect my device to not only the most secure and reliable internet connection, but also the best quality internet connection. We'll talk more about that in a second. A lot of us are having issues with Wi-Fi because everyone in the world is on Wi-Fi right now. If you are having big issues with your Wi-Fi, the best thing that I can recommend that you do is unplug and plug that router in daily. Every morning, in fact. It just resets which network you're on, and I mean, you can talk to someone who knows more about this stuff than me, but trust me, just unplug, plug it in. That should help. If your Wi-Fi is always crapping out on you and you don't have an Ethernet connection set up yet, then we can turn to our cellular data. I mean, it's not a bad idea. You've got some data on your phone, you got a big audition, it's gonna be a bit more reliable than your Wi-Fi. Great, use it. So those are our 3 options, Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and data. And you know what, y'all? The best one? It's Ethernet. If your Wi-Fi or data signal is kind of getting a little iffy, the first thing that Zoom does is cut the resolution of your video feed. If you want to make sure that your picture stays as clear and reliable as possible, plug it in, y'all. Just plug it in. Ethernet's the best. I'm not the only one saying this right now. Go and Google. Check it out. People are saying Ethernet. I know it sounds old, but it works. I love it. When it comes to the audio component of your Zoom calls and your Zoom reader, don't worry about getting an external microphone involved. Just use whatever is built into your device. It works fine. Working over a Zoom call is different than watching a self-tape. So if something pops up in the background during your Zoom call, don't worry about it. Our main focus is that internet connection. I have been playing around a lot with how to set up a Zoom audition in the best and most secure way. Because it's weird, right? Your reader is on your device and you have to be able to see yourself, but not watch yourself, connect with the reader, but have a good eye line in relation to the camera on your device. This is what I've come up with for my ideal Zoom audition and Zoom reader setup. I've decided that I'm going to use my tablet for Zoom because the camera is on this side. And since the camera is there, when I look at the reader, check out my eye line. It's pretty good, right? When you're using your computer, the camera is up top, so your eye line actually ends up below camera and you look like you're looking down a little bit. And that's fine, guys. It's fine. But you have a tablet, why not use it? I also, as I mentioned, I hardwire it in. So this is what that looks like. Yes. I've got this adapter right here, which I bought from Apple. It attaches to my iPad, and then it's got a USB adapter and it's got a power cord. It needs both. The USB connector is another Apple product here, which takes the Ethernet. So the Ethernet cord goes into here, and this all goes into here. Now, of course, it will not operate on its own. It needs to have power. So we plug in our power cord. And final note, it's got to be one of these big ones. It can't be one of the little tiny cubes. It's got to be a big cube. Now, if you don't have this setup and you only have a computer, that's fine. Use your computer. You can do like this. So, if you're 4, 1 chair is the perfect height.
Yes, and I have a white balloon.
If you're not 4, then maybe you need a chair and a box and another box and some more boxes and those books you have from university lying around. And hey, now we got ourselves a frame. You can see, right, when I make eye contact with myself as the reader, it's a bit low instead of over there because that's where the camera is on your computer. And that's okay if that's all you got. Right? Don't you think this is okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. And a little side note here, for hardwiring my computer, I use an Anchor Ethernet adapter. I really like this one because it's got the lights on it that tells me that it's working. I just love hardwired, y'all. I love hardwired. Now, if you are super new to Zoom, then I suggest you do some tutorials and figure out how it works. There's lots of great ones available. Here are some things that you definitely need to know. How to mute and unmute your microphone, and how to stop and start your video. One little fun tidbit, when you stop the video, your profile picture pops up. So make sure it's a profile picture that you want to pop up. Ideally, the headshot that you're using to audition for the job. All right, we've got a little inception going on right here. Yes, I'm in my Zoom here, and I'm in my Zoom over here. And the reason being, I would like to show you how to pin your reader. If you're reading on Zoom, you would like to get your reader to be in full screen. So you go over to their screen, which right now is this person. You click the 3 dots and you pick pin video and your reader. And that's it. That is everything you need to know about self-taping and Zooming in these strange and uncertain times. If you take nothing else from this video, remember this. It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Whatever setup you have will work just fine. If you would like to build a more professional or elaborate setup, awesome. Just start by making a list of every item you would like to have, and then slowly but surely over time, you will get each of those things. But don't stress. This is the perfect time to have a crappy setup. They get it. We're all in this boat together. All anyone wants to see is you, whether it's with pro equipment or a well-placed IKEA lamp. They want to see what you've got that's different and unique and exciting, so make that your focus, not the tech. Nobody cares about the tech. They care about you.